and welcome to another episode of the Rhobin Knits podcast. We have 2 finished objects, 3 works in progress, and a few acquisitions to talk about. So if this is something you are interested, I hope you grab your knitting, find something to drink, warm or cold, whatever you prefer, and I hope to give you company for a bit. I do think it has been a while since the last podcast episode. I did have a short fall knitting video go up after the last podcast episode, but it's been a while since we've actually discussed the works in progress and any finished object. One of the reasons I had put away doing a podcast for a while is because I did not have any finished objects. It's been really busy and nothing looks like it's slowing down. In fact, the next few months look even more crazier than what the summer was. And so now that I've had a couple of finished objects, I decided this would be a aha moment for me. I thought I'll sit down, talk about them, and then talk about my works in progress and keep you updated as to what's happening. So with the finished objects, the first one I'm itching to talk about, I've been dying to talk about this ever since it's done, is the Amoretta Blouse. Now this is what my Amoretta blouse looks like. I'm sorry, there's a crease, and I'll also put pictures in a bit, but this is what it looks like. This was a test knit. This was for the designer from the 100 Acre Wool podcast. Her name is Isabella, if I'm not wrong, and ever since she first spoke about the Amoretta blouse, I've been very, very interested. In fact, this blouse featured on the 10 t-shirts to knit or 12 t-shirts to knit this year episode that I did, and I've been keeping track of it. I've been following what's happening, and I was so excited when the test knit call went out. I immediately applied, and I was even more excited that it was accepted. And then I had to think about what fiber I'm going to use. I thought of using Surela Yarns Stellina, and I actually swatched with it. I'll put a picture of it here if I can. And I did not like how it really looked. I held it with another embroidery thread, a glittery embroidery thread, because I wanted to be a very Christmassy sweater, a very Christmassy blouse, but it didn't seem to work. And so I went back, looked at all of my stash, and I found Les Garçons British wool in the sport weight, and I decided I'll use this. I'll talk a little about the yarn first, because this was very special yarn. I picked it from Knit City, Toronto, and I did not pick any other yarn. This was the only yarn that I actually picked from that entire the entire shopping experience that I had over there. Just looking at all of those yarns was a little overwhelming, and so I ended up not picking up any of those, but this caught my eye, and I decided to take it more like a souvenir than anything else. And so I got 2 skeins of the British yarn, British wool, and this was in the colorway Eli's Childhood Home. I'll try and see if I can find that from their website and then put it up here. I swatched with this. I really like the experience of knitting. The swatch, of course, you would do with knits and pearls because it's a simple stockinette blouse, and the entire garment was going to be knits and pearls because it's a blouse. It has buttons. It's literally like a cardigan, and so the experience was really good, and I decided that yarn and this pattern would be a very good match, and so I went ahead and knit with it. Out of the 2 balls of yarn, I used up almost everything. I have about 20 grams left. I'm going to go back and lengthen the sleeves. I'll talk about that in a bit. The pattern itself is very, very interesting. It's a simple raglan pattern, but you start with 2 shoulder pads. So you start with this, and then you knit this up, and then you connect them, and then go back and forth while making increases for the sleeves and making increases for the front. So if you look at this, you would see, I'm hoping the light catches it really well to see how it seamlessly flows into the sleeve, and it also goes on to make this very, very slight increases for the back and also for the front and the neckline as well. The entire thing was very simple. You put the sleeves on hold, finish the body, and come back, finish the sleeves, and the overall finish, there was a button band, the double knit button band, and the edges there were many options to do the edges. In fact, many options to do the button band as well. I picked the double knit button band options, and the edges could be done with there was a folded edge, I know that was there was a ribbed edge, and then there was the scalloped edge. Now the scalloped edge is what caught my attention, and I decided to go ahead and do that. It requires you to do some crochet stitches, and it went perfectly fine. It wasn't too much of an issue. I remembered my crochet and I was able to do it, and it was very exciting. Now when I finished this, all of these edges were actually fallen behind. They were rolling on themselves, and I was a little worried about it, but after blocking, it just settled. And I had to pin each of the scallops just to make sure they stood out, and once I finished the blocking, they stayed that way, and it's been wonderful to wear it. I also feel it gives a very elegant look because of the buttons. I wanted to put gold buttons or silver buttons. I was leaning more towards the gold because I wanted to wear this around the holidays. But when I went to pick the buttons, I went to Michael's. I did not go anywhere else. I took this with me. I went and tried to put the buttons into the buttonholes that I'd already knit, and I did not find any button that made me feel wow about the blouse and the button match. And I finally ended up picking these. They were a set of 4 in each pack, and I picked up 2 of them. It just fit really well, and it gave a very good detail for the entire blouse. Now I usually pair this with some pearl earrings and a pearl pendant as well, and it feels like the buttons just continue onto the neck, and it feels really, really good. The whole elegance of the blouse makes me want to behave a different kind of way. I feel very feminine because of the scallops and the lace, and it's just been wonderful pairing it with, I usually wear it with a black lace skirt. It's been wonderful. Now, anything that I would change about the pattern? Yes, I feel the neckline is way too scooped, but if you look at the pattern pictures, you would know that it is way too scooped, and you would need to wear something inside if you're feeling very uncomfortable. And the first time I wore this, I decided to just wear the blouse by itself. It seemed okay. You just need to be very careful when you're moving around. At least I had to be very careful because I wasn't comfortable with it, but after a while it grew on me and it seemed absolutely okay. Now if I find a black dress that's got a little more higher neck, or even a white dress because it'll go with the buttons, I would prefer wearing it more with that. I also want to go back under the scallop edges on the sleeve, take the leftover yarn and knit it as long as I can with whatever yarn is left, and add the scallops back, and I think I would like that better. As of now, the sleeves sit perfectly. There's nothing wrong with the length at all, but I think I don't want that extra yarn just hanging about doing nothing. I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about what to do with that little 20-gram yarn, and I'm not too sure, so I would prefer just putting it into the blouse and being done with it, so the entire 2 skeins would be used up for this. The yarn itself, like I was saying, is a wonderful, wonderful yarn. It has 70% BFL and 30% Massam, and I knit this on 3.75mm needles. Now this being sport weight yarn, I still felt 3.75 gave a little open gauge, but I'm absolutely okay with it. It's not see-through. You can absolutely see, you can see the light come through. You can see the light come through. Ooh, it does feel see-through, but when it's on your body, it does not feel that way at all. And yes, I've been enjoying wearing it. I knit the size 4. Ideally, I was supposed to knit size 3 because this is meant to be worn a lot closer to the body, but I'm usually not comfortable with patterns like that, and so I went up to size 4, and I feel it's absolutely fine. And so even though the recommendation says either wear it with a negative ease or 0 ease, I would say it's okay if you want to go up. Just remember your choice of yarn. If it is something that's going to stretch, you might want to follow the pattern because this is ideally supposed to be a summer blouse, but since I'm wearing it for the winter, I feel it's okay. I did feel the yarn was a little itchy while wearing it, and so again I'm happy I went for a little positive ease because it's not clinging to the body and it gives my body some breathing space. Like I said, I purchased these 2 skeins of yarn from Les Garçons at the Knit City, and I ended up buying only 2 skeins. They were not on sale. I had to pay the full price, so I paid 79.8 Canadian dollars, so that's almost 80 Canadian dollars. And I like the yarn, and with the effort put into it, it gave a beautiful garment, and I don't regret spending that much of this yarn at all. My next finished sweater is the elephant in the room. I am wearing it today, but this was meant for Sam. I have stolen it from him for today, and this is the Kerr Sweater by Rebecca Clow of the Crayabea Knitting podcast. I had a choice to make. I was either supposed to pick the Saltburn sweater or the Kerr sweater, and Sam was leaning more towards the Kerr sweater. I was thinking of the Saltburn just because it was easier. Also, the round yoke was very appealing. I was very hesitant to do color work on magic glue, especially when it comes to the sleeves, and I ended up picking the Kerr sweater because the swatch matched, and Sam also liked the Kerr sweater better. Because I knitted for him, I knitted on size 6, so it was really big. I wanted the bust measurement of 42 inches, and with a little positive ease as well, and I ended up getting positive ease of 1 inch. It isn't too much, but I was happy it fit him at the end of the day. I picked size 6. I did a lot of modifications. I added a lot more rows for the front and back before joining in the round because I wanted to give him enough space for his biceps. So if you look at this, it's coming way past my bust, and that's how deep the armhole depth was. And so when it came to picking up stitches, I had to pick up stitches for size 7 instead of size 6, and that was almost 5 more stitches on each side, and it seemed to pucker. I felt there were way too many stitches. I could feel the puckering on top, and I was really worried. I'm not sure if you could still see it. It seemed to, I can see it a little over here. You could see a little puckering still over here. It did, a lot of it went away with blocking, but if it didn't, I would have ripped back the whole sleeve and done it again. As I was knitting it, I was constantly scared about how the sleeves would turn out, but I'm so happy it turned out fine enough to fit him, so I'm happy about that. Now, the instructions in the sweater itself say you need to decrease 1 stitch on each side of the stitch marker. When you read the instructions, you'll understand better, but you had to decrease 1 stitch on each side of the stitch marker every few rounds, and I did that for the first sleeve. I got Sam to try it on, and the sleeve felt very long, it felt very loose. It actually felt like, you know, it was almost like this, and this is where my arm is, and this is how much extra fabric there is on this on the sleeves. And so I tripped back. Instead of making 1 stitch decrease on each side, I started making 2 stitch decreases, and I did that all the way up to the cuff, and it seemed to work. Once I finished the cuff, I blocked it, made him wear it. It seemed okay because with the blocking of the sweater, I pulled the cuff really long to make sure it came up to where he wanted it. He wanted it right at the beginning of his wrist, so for him it comes somewhere over here. For me, it comes all the way to the tip of the fingers, and he seemed to like that. And then I went on and did the second sleeve to match it. I blocked it with all the stitch markers in it. I didn't feel like I had any other choice, but the stitch markers thankfully have not rusted yet, and I'm thankful for that. Like I said, every time I knit a part of the sweater, I was blocking it, getting him to try it and see if it was okay. And at one point, it seemed the sweater was too short. I'd already done the ribbing. I did Italian bind off, and so it was very difficult to take the ribbing off, and I had to go back and do my sweater surgery. This is the first time I did that. When I say sweater surgery, I just cut off the sweater. I did not put back the ribbing on. So this much of the ribbing came away, and I couldn't do anything about it. So I had to cut it out, I put the line in, I took my needle along with the cord and picked up every stitch all along the sweater. I'll see if I can put a picture of it here. I don't know if I took one. I remember posting it on Instagram, but I don't know if I saved it. So I'll see if I can find it, download it, and put it over here. I cut across the entire sweater and lengthened it, and then did the ribbing again, and it fit him perfectly after that. I'll put the pictures here so you can see it. He enjoyed wearing it. I wore the Amoretta blouse, and he wore this for our Sunday Thanksgiving lunch at church, the Canadian Thanksgiving lunch, and everybody seemed to like it. He seemed to like it. He found the fabric really warm. Even though this is a sport weight yarn, I was surprised he found it really warm, and he enjoyed wearing it. Talking about the warmth of the yarn, this is Pearl Soho's yarn. It is good wool in the colorway Teal Abyss. That's the darker colorway. The contrast colorway is undyed Wintergrass. There are many undyed colorways of the Pearl Soho Goodwill yarn. There is a lighter colorway that is more, it's stark white, and that is an undyed colorway as well. I don't remember the name of the colorway. If I find it, I'm gonna put it down here. But this was Winter Grass, and it was the undyed colorway. I did not want to pick the stark white because, again, I was afraid if the yarn would bleed. This did not bleed at all, by the way. They seem to be a good match. And the recommended needle size for this sweater is 3.75, and you go up an extra needle size for the color work. I read the instructions wrong, and I swatched with with the 4mm needles, and I ended up knitting the entire sweater in 4mm needles. I'm thankful I did, because that's why it fit Sam at the end of the day. I had to stretch the body of the sweater a little when I blocked it. It seemed fine when he wore it, and he liked the fit because he was also wearing a t-shirt inside. Because it's a sport weight yarn, I ended up also using lesser amount of yarn than I would have actually used. I had purchased 5 balls of the Teal Abyss and 2 balls of the undyed yarn. I ended up using 3.5 balls of 3.5 skeins of the main color and about half skein of the contrast color, and so I used about 4 skeins for an entire sweater, a man's sweater nevertheless. And he's pretty tall. I keep telling him he's gonna get only 1 sweater every year because he's so big, and just knitting the entire length of the sweater takes so much time. But after I knit this, first of all, knitting on 4mm needles is a breeze. After I knit this, I feel like I can make a lot more, especially when he's so appreciative. He enjoyed wearing it, and he was telling everybody about how I knit this for him. And so seeing that, I feel like I need to knit a lot more sweaters for him, but I ended up using only 4 skeins of yarn. So I have about 1.5 skeins of the undyed color left, and 1.5 skeins of the main color left as well. So just considering 3.5 skeins of the main color, half skein of the contrast color, I put it all together to say I used 4 skeins of Pearl Soho's Goodwill yarn. And if I purchased it at its original cost, it would have cost me 20.5 Canadian dollars for each skein of yarn. Now I got this at a sale. It was the year-end sale. This was 2023's year-end sale, and they had an offer on this yarn. They had 25% off, so I ended up buying this at about $15, and yes, 15.18 Canadian dollars. So for all 4 skeins of yarn, I ended up using 82 Canadian dollars, and this does not include the shipping. The shipping and the custom charges were not included in the billing itself, so I do not know. I cannot go back and look at the custom charges in particular. The shipping was minimal, so it's okay, but the entire sweater otherwise cost about 82 Canadian dollars. For how much joy it brought him, I think it's totally worth it. Now I've been adding on to my whip pile. I'll be honest, I am starting to feel a little guilty about it. The whip pile already had the Sibling Sweater, it had the Stockholm Sweater, and I added 2 more to it. I'll talk about it quickly. I'll start with the Sibling Sweater. Now this is what it's looking like. The last time you saw it, you would have seen only the body of the sweater. The sleeve was missing. I've added 1 sleeve. In fact, I'm going to go back and make a change to this. I feel it's got to be a little longer. I went based on the measurements given in the pattern, but I feel this does need at least 2 more repeats of the green, two more repeats of the white before I bind it off. So it's done. I'm done with one sleeve. There's another sleeve pending, and I am working on this. I'm hoping I can go and finish this by before the end of this month. It is the 17th as of today. I'm hoping I can finish it before the end of this month and clear my whips and cast on some new stuff by November. That is knit in Sadness Garn Duo, and it's a part of 3 sweaters. So I'm knitting 3 sweaters for a bunch of siblings. So there are 3 girls, and I'm knit the youngest ones already. This is the second. I have a third to finish before Christmas. This is supposed to be their Christmas present. So this is knit out of Sadness Garn Duo. So the contrast color, which is the white, the kit color, it's the same for all of the sweaters, but the main color is different for each sweater. This one is green, the previous one was pink, and the next one is going to be yellow. The Stockholm sweater, I have not made much of a progress. In fact, I've made no progress. I haven't touched it from the last time I spoke about it to this time. I wanted to make a brief mention of it, but I don't want to bring it out and show you because I have not made any progress on it at all. So I'll move on to my cast-ons instead. This is one of my first cast-ons. This is the Shifty by Andrea Mowry. I had a fade set from Yarn to You. I'll see if I found the picture of this fade set when she first dyed it on her Instagram page. I'll put a picture of it here. I purchased it back when I was just crocheting, and I did not have any solid plan for this, and so I made a shawl out of it, not a shawl, a scarf out of it, and the rest of it was just sitting, and I decided to put it together in this sweater. Now I want to wear this over dresses and skirts, so I wanted it to be a little cropped and not go all the way down. So this is cropped. I finished the body. It is rolling on itself because it's not blocked yet. I will unroll it. It's also quite a mess. I'll explain quickly why. So this is how the body looks. This is what the body looks like. So I started with the blue. There is the blue-green color, and then there's a yellow-green color. There is a yellow, and then red-yellow, and then just red. So I've used just the red for the ribbing. I may go and rip it back and add one repeat of the red with the white, with the contrast color, and then add the ribbing. But I would probably go back after I finish the sleeves. The sweater itself has been a joy to knit. As usual, I feel I tell it all the time, but the knitting experience for each of this is very different. This sweater had a few techniques that I've never used before. It's the mosaic knitting. This sweater I am using as an entry for 2 different knit-alongs. The first one is for the mosaic knit along, but hosted by Young Folk Knits, and the next one is the From Me to Me knit along. I'm thinking that that's what it is. I'll put the hashtag here if I find it, and this is by Laura Penrose. The second knit along in particular meant a lot to me because I've been doing a lot of gift knitting, and it felt good to just focus on something nice, something more creative, something new, just for myself, and then finish this, and that's why I think it's been an extra pleasure to knit this. The contrast yarn that I've been using this is Knit Picks Troll. That is the sport weight yarn, while the main colors is actually fingering weight yarn. I've been using 3.5mm needles. It worked absolutely fine. I did not gauge swatch. I am not a good example, but you should always gauge swatch. Now, as I was knitting this, when I was deciding what size to knit, I was between 2 sizes. I was between size 3 and size 4. The pattern recommendation is that you go down to size 3. You would have known my dilemma by now. Every time I'm between sizes, I usually tend to size up instead of sizing down because I just like the feel of a positive ease garment. In fact, even though I'm sure it has quite a bit of positive ease, I feel very comfortable in this, and I usually don't wear anything that's close to the body. I also remember watching Isabella from the 100 Acre Wool long ago when she made the sweater for herself. She was talking about how she knitted a little bigger and she would have preferred going down because she did not like how the yoke fit her. Considering all of this, I knew I have to knit size 3 for me. but I was leaning more towards size 4 because I also knew I'm going to have an issue when it comes to the sleeves. My arms are a lot more bulkier and it's going to be very uncomfortable for my arm to fit into a narrower sleeve. And so I had to do some math. What I ended up doing was I increased to a number between size 3 and size 4 with the last yoke increase. I picked a number divisible by 4 because that's how the stitch count repeats. The pattern repeat is it's a 4 stitch repeat, and so I looked at a multiple of 4 and made an increase between size 3 and size 4, and then I put the sleeve stitches on hold. And when I went back and did the cast on for the underarm, I added the rest of the stitches. So I ideally had to take out 20 stitches from the actual number that was there, and I added 10 stitches on each side of the armhole, each arm, and it seemed to work fine. I tried it on several times. I did a lot of mid blocking with this in particular because this is superwash yarn, and funnily enough, I have not been knitting much with superwash yarn. I usually tend to knit a lot, at least tend to crochet a lot with superwash yarn, but I can see my tastes have moved a little. And so with this being a superwash yarn, I was afraid about how much it would stretch or how much it wouldn't stretch, because I feel with this yarn, this one in particular, I was able to mold it to the measurements that I wanted, but with the superwash yarn, I am finding it a little difficult. So I did a couple of mid-project blocks, especially in the yoke after I separated for the sleeves and knit a little of the body, and it seemed to work fine. So I'm happy that I made that modification. Once I finished with the body, I again was not sure how long I wanted to go because I do have limited amount of yarn, and so once I finished the body, I decided I'll just do the ribbing and leave it at that, come back to the sleeves, finish both the sleeves, and then go back and add the rest of the yarn into the body. Now with the sleeves, again, it has been very challenging because I am splitting one ball of yarn, and I also feel I want to use up all of the yarn instead of keeping leftovers, and so I've been doing both the sleeves at once. If you'll see a lot of thread hanging out of both the sides. It has been challenging in the sense just managing yarn first of all, and then trying to weigh the ball each time, or trying to make sure I have equal number of repeats each time. I'm sure there is a better way to do it. If you have suggestions, please put them down in the comments below, and I'll be happy to follow them because I think there's quite a way to go before I finish this. The goal was to finish it before fall is over and take pictures with all the fall leaves, because this is a fall fade. The yarn is fall fade, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. But if you have suggestions, please put them down below. It's okay, I'll just do it as I have time, and I'll probably get it done by I'll be able to wear it for next Thanksgiving maybe, or I can even wear it all through winter. That's about the Shifty. I don't have much else to say. I may have more updates about the challenges I'm facing right now the next time I do a podcast episode. My last little update is a hat, and this is a test knit. This is the Fresno Hat, and this is for the designer of Knitonomy. Her name is Magdalena Parker, if I'm not wrong, and this is what the pattern is looking like right now. If the color seems familiar, it's because I'm making it with the leftovers of the Goodwill yarn. This is in the colorway Teal Abyss. I have signed up for 2 of her hat pattern tests. One is the Fresno Hat, the other one is called Bloomfield. Both of them are cable knit patterns, and I'm just using this as an opportunity to get ahead in my gift knits for Christmas. This has been, again, a very beautiful pattern. It comes in 2 sizes, and the only difference between the 2 sizes, the pattern notes, all of them are very similar. The only difference between 2 sizes is the needle size. So for this is the smaller size. I'm using 3.5mm needles. If you want to make the bigger size, you would be using 4mm needles. The idea of using the same pattern and just using 2 different needles also was very appealing to me, especially because you don't have to go switch back and forth between 2 numbers, and with this being a cable pattern, just following the chart seemed very simple. So this is what it's looking like right now. This was the first cable, then these two branched out, and then there are smaller cables in between them. I am using a magic loop to work on this because I do not have needles or cords that are sufficient for a hat. I also feel using 5-inch needles, these are the longer Chago needles, using the longer ones helps me rest my palm on it, and it feels very ergonomically comfortable. So I prefer using the magic loop to using a shorter needle with the right length of cord, which would be okay to use for a hat or even for a sock. Using the good wool to make cables has been giving me a lot of inspiration. I love how the cables look. You can, even from really far off, you could see the lovely cable patterns, and just the feel of this yarn with the 3.5mm needles feels beautiful. And I think this is a very versatile yarn. I'm going to be using this a lot more in the future, so you'll be hearing a lot about good wool. That's all I have about projects, but I have been wanting to talk about acquisitions for a while now. I have made quite a lot of acquisitions. You'll see them all behind me. I just have a couple of skeins here, but I'll give you details of how much I actually purchased. These acquisitions were made over a period of 3 months, but I did not want to talk about it in the last episode because I felt it was going long, but after I edited it was quite short. So and I thought I'll sit down today, talk about it. One thing is to be accountable for what yarn I'm purchasing and to make sure I'm using the yarn that I have in stash before I go on to purchase more. That being said, with the changes coming up in the future, I don't think I would have too much of a yarn budget to buy yarn either. So I'm going to be forced to work with all of the yarn I have. I know I had a lot of joy when I purchased these yarns, and I want to make sure they feel loved and treasured as well. The Knitting Loft had a sale. Actually, most of these are from the Knitting Loft, although it's not from their annual sale. There's only one batch of yarn that's from there, but all of the others were purchased quite earlier. They had a clearance sale, so on their website they didn't really have highlighted space that said this was a clearance sale, but when you go to yarns and you looked at sale yarns or clearance yarns, I found all of these yarns and they were listed at 40% off. The first one I wanted to purchase was the Walk collection. This is the Walk Linea, if I'm not, yeah, this is the Walk Linea. This is in the colorway Patina. The light is fading fast, but I think this is true to its color. This is 50% alpaca, 25% linen, and 25% silk. So while I wouldn't call it a complete summer yarn, I wouldn't call it a complete winter yarn, but I think it is beautiful for transitional weather. I got about 6 skeins of this yarn. Each skein would cost about 40 Canadian dollars. I got it at a discount of 40%, so I got it at about $24 per skein. The vision for this yarn is to make a good wool dress. Because it has silk, it has linen, and it has wool as well, I feel it would be good for it, especially a dress where you would have more friction, not just in the underarms but in the thigh and the bum area. I think this would be good. I'm hoping this would help it last longer, especially because of the linen and the silk content. The next bunch of yarns I got is the Fiber Co Luma, and I got about 4 skeins of this green color and 3 skeins of this, a total of 7 skeins of the Fiber Co Luma. This has a blend of organic cotton, linen, merino wool, and silk. I don't know what the exact percentage of each of those are. Again, if I find it, I'm gonna quickly put it up here. I want to see if I can find the colorways. This colorway is called Ancient Stone. I'm trying to see if it focuses. And this colorway is called Sap Green. And I love the idea of putting these together. It is a DK weight yarn. It is only 50 grams each, and so I would have to put them together in a garment to make sure the quantity works out, matches out for the whole thing. And I'm hoping to make a Farnham sweater out of this. Now this skein, each 50 grams skein costs about 15.5 Canadian dollars. I got this at a sale again, and so it cost me 9.3 Canadian dollars, and I felt it was a steal. And the next yarn is Noro Kakigori. I have been wanting to try this yarn for a while. I don't remember who. I think it's Future Fiber. I heard her talking about the Nora Kakigori yarn. She used it to make a garment. I don't remember what garment, but she mentioned how most of the Nora yarns come with a blend of so many different fibers, and that made me very curious to try a Nora yarn. Now the Kakigori yarn is made of 50% cotton, 30% silk, 10% viscose, and 10% polyamide. So this is more of a summer yarn than a winter yarn. This is supposed to be a DK weight yarn. It says 3 light, so that is DK weight, and the recommended needle size is 3.5 millimeter needles to 4 millimeter needles. This I'm hoping to make into either a Stockholm sweater for myself or a tendril sweater, although I'm not sure if the stitch definition would be good enough to see the stitch pattern of a tendril sweater. The tendril sweater has a few zigzag stitch patterns, and I'm not sure if the color, you could see it's almost speckled. It's not variegated, it is speckled. I don't know if this would work really well for making sure that stitch definition stands out, but that is the plan for this. I got a total of 3 balls of this yarn. This would have cost 55 Canadian dollars. Again, I got it at a 40% discount, and so it cost me 33 Canadian dollars. Now the last yarn I got from the Knitting Loft is called Brooklyn Shelter, Brooklyn Tweed, and the line is Shelter. This is woolen spun yarn. It is worsted weight. Each of this is 50 grams, and each 50 gram skein cost about 20 Canadian dollars. I got this on a sale. This was at their anniversary sale in the beginning of October, and I ended up purchasing this for $15 each. I do have another yarn which is woolen spun, and I've been very excited to try this. This being the worsted weight, the other one is fingering weight, this being the worsted weight. I have a couple of patterns in mind. The main reason I purchased this was to use it for the Elkin sweater. This is an upcoming pattern by Sophie, the Knit Pearl Girl. I applied for the test knit. I was not picked, but when the pattern comes out, I'm hoping I could use this yarn to knit up that sweater. If I do not do that, my second preference would be the Storm Sweater by Petite Knit, but any sweater that has textures, that's oversized, and would make the entire sweater feel light and nice, would be good. So I purchased about 5 skeins of this. That's what I'm hoping to use it for. The last acquisition I have to share is from Studio 715. They were closing the studio and they had a clearance sale. I'm sorry, the light's almost gone. I'll wind this up quickly. So they were having a clearance sale, and I found this yarn on their website. This is called Moon Dust. This is cashmerino sock. This is what it looks like. It feels like the fading light gives the best color when it comes to yarn. So this is made of 70% superwash merino, 20% cashmere, and 10% nylon. Each skein is about 115 grams and gives about 400 yards. It is fingering weight yarn. I would say it is more heavy fingering, and I got about 4 skeins of this yarn. I forgot what the actual cost of it was. I'm thinking it was about 32 Canadian dollars, but I got it for 28 Canadian dollars each since the store was closing. So that's it with the acquisitions. I think one of these even was even featured in my fall knitting plans. That's how delayed I have been with showing them to you. But I've been very happy about the sales. I'm glad I was able to purchase a few yarns and keep them in store, because I do see a yarn drought season coming up, at least for the next 4 or 5 months. And so I have enough to keep myself busy for the next few months. I have, for every knitting plan that I have, I do have enough yarn, so I don't need to purchase anymore. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful I have enough stash that I can look into and knit out of. Well, if you've been here so far, if you're here with me so far, I'm thankful for letting me give you company, and thank you for listening to me. It's been nice to talk to somebody about yarn, about knitting, about different techniques, about what changes have been happening. And I hope you found some inspiration from what you heard. I hope you'll be able to knit some of the sweaters I've been knitting or I've been thinking about, and let me know if any one of them inspired you. With that, I'll say goodbye. I hope you have a good knitting time, and I'll see you